Welcome back to Linux Weekly, daily Wednesdays, where we sit back, relax, take that midweek break, talk about some of the fun things going on in the world of Linux and open source. I'm Vince Stone, joined by Jill Bryant and everybody hanging out, watching us live on Twitch. Plenty to talk about. We're going to pour one out for Plasma LTS. Jill's going to tell you about open source funding and why that's important. CM4 prices, compute modules, they're going the right direction, and it's not up. And of course, we found out what happened to that massive thing Oracle built with a bunch of Raspberry Pis a couple of years ago. It found a good home. But first, a little bit of ketchup, a little bit of mustard. What's been going on since last week? I know Jill's a bit wound up because it's your birthday tomorrow.
Yeah, it's my birthday actually tomorrow. And Steve Husband is taking me to Disneyland this Friday and the Renaissance Pleasure Fair here in SoCal this Sunday. So they just kind of happened to align with one another, and I had to do both on the same weekend, but that's okay with me. It's all fun. And it's cool because Steve can show off his bird nest on his head costume.
Says what you guys got planned, Disney and Renaissance.
Yes.
Sounds fun.
And it's great because it's the same, kind of, it's a lot of the same nerds that do both. So it's fun.
One place has mice.
Yes.
And the other place
and the other has rats?
Plagues. Yeah.
Plagues, yeah. The Black Plague.
There you go. Sounds like a wholesome birthday adventure.
Yeah. But I am excited about that. This is going to be a big fun birthday.
Right on. Right on. I think it was last week I was talking about, if a company gets a thing to me in time, because if they don't, I'm just going to send it back to them. They got it to me on time. I got a mini PC.
Oh, nice.
Do we call these mini PCs? Micro PCs? What do we call these Nooks? I want to just call it a Nook, right?
I know. But I guess everyone just calls them mini PCs now.
That's like a weird discussion. We were talking about that in the pre-show. Go back and listen to that if you're a patron. What really defines like a single board computer? And my thing is like, if I can upgrade the RAM, you can upgrade the RAM in this.
Yeah.
And this is AMD. What I was talking about last week is, these companies reach out to me, and this is like a refresh. So this is me getting excited about something that's not terribly excited if you're looking for like a big fire breathing little block of nope. This is like, oh, this is a really cool usable piece of hardware that I might actually use.
Yeah. At
a reasonable price. That gets me excited because when I hear a reasonable price, it's like things people actually buy, because we all like looking at, the 5090s or the new Threadrippers, the crazy stuff. I'm like, well, I'm never going to buy that. Fun to watch. I'm more interested in things you might actually buy, things you might get some use of, things that are going to go through your brain meats, and you're going to sit there and go, yeah, I might pick that up. That's actually pretty cool. So I'm going to find out if this is actually pretty cool. I've never dealt with this company before. They've been around for a long time, and they make no bold claims, which is something I like to see. They're like, there's not like it's not like no unicorn poop in this show.
Yeah. Nice.
That's not on the marketing material. Like, this thing, here's the price. This is what it does. You want to play with it. I'm like, all right, send it over. Well, that's what I'm going to be doing the next couple of weeks.
Cool beans.
Yeah, it should be fun. Should be fun. And the RV2 stuff is in this imaginary dream world. The RISC-V thing I'm working on, maybe I'll be able to get those out near each other, but that one's just kind of on pause because the reason I'm doing this from this company is because they are going to be coming out with a Snapdragon version of this. And I want one.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I want to see what it's like working with them before we do that. There you go. Follow everything I do over on Interfacing Linux. But here we go into the show proper, everybody. Adventures in Linux and KDE. Do you use KDE?
Yes, I do.
You do?
I sure do. Actually, almost on a daily basis.
Almost on a daily basis. Yeah, I think anybody who used KDE was like, almost on a daily basis. Like, sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought about installing KDE yesterday. I did because I was downloading Fedora, and like we have Fedora Workstation, and you have Fedora KDE edition or Plasma edition.
Yeah.
I had to go to Google. And this is weird, you know, it's coming from like, I've installed Fedora Core 1 when it was a thing. And I'm like, what's the difference? And they're like, one's KDE, moron. And I'm like, oh, okay. The other one's GNOME. That could have been simplified on the download page, Fedora. Got that installed. Why are we talking about KDE though? Well, KDE's got Plasma, the desktop. And there's been some notes, you know, from the, I don't really call it like the KDE Con, but they got together just talking about like what's coming on, what's new in the world of KDE. And one of the people involved was like, something kind of big's going to happen. KDE is going to be discontinuing LTS support for the Plasma desktop. Now, womp, womp, right? That's sad. That's sad, but instead don't get too wound up about it because they're going to be focusing on extending support for bug fixes and feature releases. So that's good. That's just not really LTS. Now, why are they going to change this? Long-term support. Why are they getting rid of it? Nobody wanted to work on it anymore. And like the people who were using it didn't seem terribly happy with it. But that said, Plasma, the feature releases, they're going to be reduced to like 2 a year. So it's not going to be absolute chaos over in KDE land. And I was reading through this, you know, a bunch of different things have went on. You know, this covers, you know, how they're going to be changing up telemetry in KDE, opt-in, which is always good, doing it right. And a really fun read. This will be in the show notes if you want to go through it. Personally, I prefer my Linux desktop managers to have a release cycle that range somewhere between 4 and 6 years, which is me saying I run XFCE with a bunch of extra words.
Yeah.
I didn't even know. You know, I find out about these things. I didn't know there was an LTS version of the Plasma desktop. You know, when I hear about Plasma, which is always the downside to a lot of things. Usually when I hear about Plasma, it's because somebody's having a problem with it. And I know a lot more people are not having a problem with it, but you hear from the people like, oh, something with Plasma broke. But putting that, you know, engineering effort into the, you know, bi-yearly release, it's probably going to be a good thing. What do you think, Joe?
Yeah. So to me, honestly, having the extra bug fix release is a really great idea to make, you know, KDE Plasma even more stable. I think this is a really good move. And the awesome, you know, Nate Graham and the KDE Plasma team has had such a great track record of fixing many of the KDE Plasma bugs quickly. And consolidating their schedule and removing the time it takes to do an LTS will give them more time to focus on fixing those bugs. And honestly, I love using the modern day KDE Plasma on my Steam Deck because of how fast, sleek, and pretty it is. And that's mostly where I'm using KDE Plasma now. Because my main desktops on my other computers are Window Maker, XFCE,
Come on, man,
Flexbox.
You got to switch to GNOME so you can press the Windows key and make it go boom, 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 boom.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
but I use
all day, Jill, all day. Look.
Yes.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah.
See, do that, KDE Plasma. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I prefer the older and, yeah, like Ben was saying, the more stable window managers.
I don't even
but
think about it. I don't even
them.
joke around, man. Like, people think I'm like throwing shade at them, but the idea of my desktop manager like crashing or having or throwing any type of exception, an error.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm the same way, but my the KDE on my Steam Deck has never crashed. So they're doing something right.
They're doing exactly right. They're making an immutable distribution and putting it on the Steam Deck so you can't get there and monkey around with it easy.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, like 99% of the time, you're like, why did it crash? So like, what did you do to it?
Yeah.
Well, you know, we don't need to get into all that. It just crashed on its own. Like, we both know that's not true.
I know people who use KDE in production, and it's very stable nowadays. You still have that occasional issue, but you do with GNOME too. So But
LTS
yeah, there was
has
a
gone
long
away,
time
though.
there. Yeah, there was a long time I didn't use KDE, because of crashing and whatnot.
There's a lot of time I did use KDE. I used KDE all the way up to KDE 4.
4, yeah, same here, Vin. That's what I like about the new version. It seems to be just as stable.
I like KDE Plasma. I've played around with both on Wayland. Since I'm doing a lot of this ARM stuff on interfacing Linux, those are really your two options for your desktops. You got GNOME and you got KDE. And I think like KDE is something, Windows 10, Windows 11 user can like bounce over to, and it kind of feels semi like oriented. They can be like, okay, I kind of understand how this works. This is where I would expect stuff to kind of be. GNOME out of the box is just a fever dream. I love it. I love it. It's crazy. And I don't like that. The one thing I don't like about GNOME, or maybe in KDE, like the idea of like, okay, let me just throw GNOME under the bus if we're just going to be doing that. And the idea of like having to, hit that button to search for a thing in order to open an application out of the box, default behavior. Now, don't talk to me. Extensions, you can, no. I'm talking about out of the box default behavior. That's horrible. Yeah. That makes me take an extra step, like the menu, like start menu. Windows 95 got that right. But hey, LTS, no more. It's not a bad thing. It just means things are going to get better for everything else. So that's good to see. And there's some other mentions about like theming and updates with KDE, but man, those days are so gone for me of like applying themes. Like give me a dark mode, send it.
Ben just likes black and white. or blue and white, like you were just showing.
See my wasteland of a desktop, man. I'm like, I have like 5 icons on it, and that's it. And like everything else is auto hidden. I'm like, why? Like, why don't you? It's like I don't spend any time on the desktop. I don't. I have no use for it. Like it doesn't have to look pretty. Anyway, let's talk about open source projects. One might be in trouble. It might not be now.
Yeah. So this is actually just really sad news, and I wanted to talk about it. Many open source projects in the Linux community are suffering from lack of funding. Like everything that's going on today, people are having, things are costing too much money, things, so they're not getting as many donations as they used to. And it's hard times right now for everyone. And so the fine folks over at the Open Source Lab, or OSL, at Oregon State University is no exception. OSL has been operating for 22 years, and they provide infrastructure for over 500 open source projects, including Alpine Linux, BusyBox, CentOS, Fedora, Debian, Deluge, FFmpeg, Postmarket OS, Inkscape, Firefox, GNOME, MacPorts, Haiku, Lineage OS, Gentoo, Tor, QEMU, and hundreds of others. Trying to get
just
through.
Like this, making sure you get Haiku in there. That's all I care about.
Yeah. And many of us Linux users have downloaded Linux distros hosted and compiled on the Open Source Lab servers over at the Oregon State University. That is how I found out about the Open Source Lab, and I'm sure Ven did too. So OSL will shut down later this year if they cannot secure $250,000 in committed funds soon. The funds are needed for staff pay, which is $150,000, student pay $65,000, and other expenses, which is around $35,000. On the Open Source Lab website, they state, I am writing to inform you about a critical and time-sensitive situation facing the Open Source Lab, OSL. Over the past several years, we have been operating at a deficit due to a decline in corporate donations. While the Oregon State College of Engineering has generously filled the gap, recent changes in university funding makes our current funding model no longer sustainable. As a result, our current funding model is no longer sustainable. And so companies, including Rocky Linux, Postmarket OS, and Inkscape, are calling for support for the OSL. And if you are interested in becoming a corporate sponsor, check the source link for the contact information. Otherwise, anyone can donate through the OSU Foundation, which is an IRS 501c nonprofit. And the link is in our show notes. And I went ahead and did a donation yesterday. I've donated over the years to them. They're kind of one of the open source projects that's been on my radar. So, it was really, really nice to give them a donation. And, my little donation is nothing compared to what they need, but at least it's something. They need $250,000. That's a lot of money. And I'm hoping their previous donors come through with bigger donations. That's what we're hoping, their previous corporate sponsors.
I think they've been doing, over the years, a bunch of fantastic work. And here's something, if you want to kick them like $20, $50, $100, that's, get a little extra jingle jangle. It's going to a good place. Here's something that needs to be at the top of the page, though. When you go to the donation page, under I want to give, you want to make sure you click Open Source Lab Fund to make sure that they get the donation, because there's a bunch of options in here. There are. You just want to make sure it goes to the right place.
There's a lot of them. Yeah. I just typed mine in because I found it. At first I didn't see it in the list, so I just typed it in and then it popped up.
It'll pop up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're going to be good to go on that. I'd really like to see like Rocky, Postmark, a bunch of Inkscape, maybe not, but, help them out if you can. If you can't, that's cool too. Like, just share the news, post it somewhere. 2 things before we get out of here, though. The mythical Compute Module 4, which was Vapor hardware for a long time.
Yeah.
It was. They made it.
Yes, it
Raspberry
was.
Pi said they made it. You couldn't buy it. I mean, we couldn't buy it. Corporations and big industries could buy it. Raspberry Pi was like, here, how many do you need? Oh, you want one for home use? Well, have fun buying them from scalpers. This is an absolute true story. You can't dispute that. That's how it was for a long time. Raspberry Pi came out and said it, like, hey, we got to favor our business partners because that's how we roll. Okay, that's cool. Fair enough. However, they've now announced that the prices are going in the right direction now. Not up, though, Joe. Not up.
Yeah, and this is one of the positive stories for today. Very exciting. So, in a day where everything is costing more, Raspberry Pi has just reduced the prices of the Compute Module 4 gigabyte version and 8 gigabyte versions. The 4 gigabyte version will cost $5 less, and the 8 gigabyte version will cost $10 less. That's pretty huge, especially if you need to buy in bulk. So, for instance, the Compute Module 4 wireless.
Bulk. I'm going to go buy them in bulk. I'm going to get 2 of them.
Yeah, you get 2 of them. Okay. So for instance, the Compute Module 4 wireless with 4 gigabytes of RAM and 32 gigabytes of storage was $70, and now it's $65. And the Compute Module 4 wireless with 8 gigabytes of RAM and 32 gigabytes of storage was $95 and is now $85. And that'll save you a lot of money if you're buying quite a few of them for a business or a project, or even just saving $10 on an individual one for yourself.
$10 is $10,
Yeah. And the Compute Module 4, although it's not as powerful as the newer Compute Module 5, is used for lots of applications, like for medical equipment, energy services infrastructure, concrete monitoring, and retro gaming. Woohoo! So lowering the costs of the higher memory variants, which are used in a lot of embedded applications, will make these projects more cost-effective and make it easier to upgrade to more powerful compute modules with more RAM and storage space. So this is a win-win. The CM4 has a quad-core ARM Cortex-A72 processor, lots of I/O capabilities, and a very flexible form factor. And you can get them over at the usual Raspberry Pi approved resellers like Konakit and PiShop.us, but not all of them had them in stock yet at the reduced price. So check back with them soon. I think there was one I found that did have them in stock at the lower price. So, and I know that changes daily. And I've actually checked them a couple of the sellers the last 3 days. And so Konakit still wasn't in stock. but I haven't checked this morning.
I gotta be real, man. The entire life cycle, the CM4 has just no availability.
Yeah.
Like every time I've thought about it.
Yeah.
Because when it's very flexible. Saying it's very flexible is a marketing speak for you need to buy extra equipment in order to use it.
Yeah.
You can't just go buy a CM4 and tape it to your concrete and expect it to start monitoring. It's not going to work quite like that. You got to get a carrier board. Now, fortunately, carrier boards are easy. Everybody makes a carrier board for the CM4 at this point. Mm-hmm. But if you can track one down at a reasonable price, they could just be pushing out old inventory, which is, I don't think that's the case because they've had a tough time keeping these things in stock. And I want them to get cheaper. I want them to get them to the point. Because when you put them in a carrier board, CM5 also gets interesting because then you can add in additional I/O that you're not going to traditionally find on a Raspberry Pi 4 or 5, like PCI Express slots, SATA and all these other bits that just don't necessarily fit on a little tiny board like this. Mm-hmm. But you see a Raspberry Pi? This one fits an NVMe drive without a ribbon cable. Oh, I'm not going to let you live that one down. Look, there's another NVMe already.
Very good.
Giving them a hard time, man. That ribbon cable. So, yeah, there you go. Quad-core A72. Not the latest and greatest, but I mean, it's kind of in this industry standard, A72, pretty decent silicon. Okay, let's take a trip all the way back to 2019, which was a year or two ago, right?
Yeah.
Right? Just yesterday, before the weird universe that we currently reside in, just kind of jumped off into us. Oracle, everybody's favorite software vendor, the people who graciously bought a much beloved company's son and killed it for no other reason than they wanted the patents to fight Google. That's the only reason they bought Sun. I'm very bitter about that.
Yeah, I understand. I am
back
too.
In 2019, Oracle did something kind of cool. You got to give them credit. Even if you don't want to give them credit, you got to point it out and you're like, I didn't know you were capable of doing something even remotely They made this. We're seeing it at a bit of an expo, and it's a big chunky rack. And inside that rack is 1,050 Raspberry Pis. 25 USB power supplies, 26 network switches. Why? Because guess what? That would have also meant 1,050 SD cards, and they need a network boot, all running Oracle Linux. Okay, you can't win them all. ARM instead of just regular Raspbian. This makes you think, whatever happened to that? They kind of made this for a trade show to kind of show off. This started as a little engineering project inside of Oracle. Surprisingly, you're able to get away with stuff like this. At least you were in 2019. And they built this thing, they drug it out, they showed it off, and they're like, this is really cool, right? And we all went, that's really cool. Did it get thrown away? This was not Raspberry Pi 4, it was Raspberry Pi 3s. And they found a good home. They did.
Yes.
I'm happy to report. This popped up in my news feed, and I was like, man, we need a little bit of a feel-good story. This is back. Oh, yeah, it is. They decided they're just going to donate that shocker to the University of Santa Barbara.
Yay.
The University of Santa Barbara, they had to tune things up to kind of make it actually work. Let me scroll back up here where it's actually at. There's the team that's playing around with it because it was just kind of like a demo thing for Oracle. They're like, look, it technically functions, but, they want to get some work done with it. So they're going to be working on building, a long-lived, low-powered data center. They're going to be try to prototype that out with it. There's much uses when you have, 1,050 Raspberry Pis laying around. And Godzilla Pi is what it's called.
Yes, a perfect name.
There's a smaller version kicking around. They call it Tiny Tart. Tart. It's Tiny Tart. And they're going to be used for testing out IoT type things and cloud research and other testy bits. So I was very glad that, this just didn't get scrapped, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, I wouldn't have minded getting scrapped because you hear about these people that do a little bit of dumpster diving and they're like, oh, yeah, I found this and this, all this cool old heart. Can you imagine driving around like behind Oracle, like next to the bin? There's just a rack with 1,050 Raspberry Pis in it.
Yeah, that would be incredible.
It didn't end up as e-waste. They're going to find something to do with it. And I love, that's the right place because you can still get a lot of work done with the Raspberry Pi 3. And the idea of like building, I want to say Beowulf, but I don't know if you kids understand
Beowulf
what a Beowulf cluster is.
Yes. Yes.
Because it's not really a good analogy in 2025, but in the spirit of a Beowulf cluster, you can get a lot of work done with a bunch of us smaller devices stacked together and linked up. So being able to build a low cost, and we're starting to see people do that still with, they're trying to cheese AI, trying to cheese compute in a world where like actual GPUs are like crazy expensive. They're buying stacks of, M4 SoCs from Apple and like stacking those together and like other things. So just seeing what they can come up with. And yeah, a present of 1,050 Raspberry Pis from Oracle, and that not ending up in a landfill just makes me happy. I'm glad to see it.
Oh yeah. So this is, just the absolute perfect use of the world's largest Raspberry Pi cluster, off the trade show floor and into the hands of students who can do cloud research on it, the Internet of Things research, and just kind of test how a large cluster works in a small form factor. It's like and it costs the school a lot less money to, have of course, University of California, Santa Barbara has hundreds of computers, and they do have a render farm that I know about. But this has a lot smaller footprint, and any student can play with it. I think that is just awesome.
I think it's interesting. Give it to the right people. They'll find something to do with it. I was reading through the post over at Santa Barbara on their web zone, and one of the people involved with it really mirrored something my friend Dr. John says. He's a researcher at the University of Georgia, a geneticist, and he says, yeah, if anybody ever shows up and says, hey, would you like donative thing? He's like, you don't ask what it is, anything, you just say yes.
You just say yes, of course.
We'll figure out something to do with it. Give it. And that's kind of what happened in this situation. And it looks like it's going to work out.
Yeah, this is amazing.
Love to see it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to wrap us up for this week. If you want to keep track of the show, we got a YouTube channel. Jill, what's our YouTube address?
Okay, it's LinWW, LinWDW.
LinWDW, at LinWDW. There might be a link down in the description, or you can just head over to linuxgamecast.com. We got the podcast. It's basically anywhere. Just scroll down a bit. Hey, there it is. Need to update all the logos. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, all the places where you would normally find it. And if you like what we do, you want to come hang out with us the other 6 days of the week, chat with us, hop in our super secret Discord by becoming a patron, patreon.com/LinuxGamecast. Get your name in the credits. You get the pre-show, the post-show, and the live. I stick everything together. It's just called Live and Uncut. If you can't make the live show and you don't want to sign up on Twitch and watch a Twitch VOD, because watching Twitch VODs are a horrible experience. And I say that as somebody who begrudgingly watches Twitch VODs on the occasion, trying to seek through them.
Yeah.
It's not fun, but I go ahead and put that in a podcast format with a RSS feed over on Patreon that you can just drop in your RSS reader. Like, hey, look, new episode. And we do a video version of the show that's not on YouTube, no commercials, higher quality video and audio, a bunch of different things to thank you for letting us do this. It's kind of fun. And follow everything I get up to over on Interfacing Linux. We got whatever's in this box coming your way. Got some RISC-V stuff in the works. This thing's got an SD card reader on the side. That's kind of weird. I wonder if that works. I don't know. We'll find out. Yeah. We'll find out. Interfacinglinux.com. And you can find our social media stuff on Linux Gamecast, or Mastodon, or Zitters, or Blue Skis.
Yes.
Our Facebook. We just have a Facebook, though. I think everybody else has accounts on social media for everything else, but I haven't had a Facebook account in so long, man. It's so long. Joe, you got a Facebook account, don't you?
Yeah, I do. And I have a lot of business accounts as well for the other network I work on.
Yeah, I think
I also have, we have Linux Gamecast on there. So very
Linux Gamecast. Yeah, Facebook has been, we were talking about that before we went to the show. Facebook, it's a dying thing, which that's okay. Zuckerberg came out earlier, what was it, this week or late last week? And he's like, yeah, social media, we're not going to be focusing on that too much more. He's still convinced it's going to be the metaverse, the VR, the experience. Yeah. We'll see. All right, ladies and gentlemen, have a great rest of your week. Get out there, make something fun, play around, open source, download some things. Oh, I played with a Ladybird browser. Go do that.
Oh, yeah, that's great. Yeah.
I compiled that. Ladybird browser is going to be in your future. It's going to be the browser you're going to be using in about 3 years. So that name in your brain meets. And you can see my experiment with that. I'll probably get some stuff posted later on. It's pretty easy to build. Go check it out. All right. There we go. I hear some bouncy music, so it's time.
Bouncy music.
To do the credits.
I thank all our patrons, including our advisor, Arthurian. And I just want to do a shout out for everyone that's in chat right now. We got who's our patrons. Community Time, Katana Steel, Mir PPC, my husband, Steve Husband, and a whole bunch of other people that, including Chad, Romero, Turnover, Martin, and our chairlings. Oh, Mr. Alert was in chat. I'm trying to name all the people that were in chat today. It was awesome.
Next week, we'll be back. Until then, have a great one, everybody.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Love you all.